Hi, today we're going to be taking a look at the new iDrop Desktop 2 application and show how to set up and run a synchronization and talk about what's involved in that. And we're going to run it from the code.rensi.org site. So if you navigate in your browser to code.rensi.org, you get this home page. And then you can select the Projects tab. And what we're looking for is the iRODS iDrop project. GForge is where we keep all our project documentation and trackers for features and things like that. But also here on the home page, there are some iDrop links. And what we're selecting here is the iDrop snapshot. So this is the work in progress for the new iDrop 2. And so we're going to select this link. And iDrop will start. Okay, we don't need to see this console, so I'll move that out of the way. Okay, so we're waiting for iDrop to start. All right, and I'm just going to log into my local grid. Let's make sure we have the right port. Yes, okay, so log in. Okay, and then the main GUI will start. Close this browser. All right, and so as you can see, it looks much different than the first version. It's much more simplified. We've had a lot of work with the community and user feedback and user studies, and so we're trying to come up with something that is easier for users to work with, a little more friendly. And you can see we've turned the top bar here into an actions bar, so you can do the typical upload and download actions, copies, get file info, and so forth. But what we're interested in right now is synchronization. So currently, if you select the settings button, okay, and then you select synchronization, this will show you all the synchronizations that are set up between this laptop and your iROD server. So you can see here we have one synchronization already configured. I'm called it Sync 1, and it is a synchronization between a local folder called Info Security and then an iRODS path here I've selected. Here are details for the selected sync. So you can see here's the local folder, and it's a local to iRODS backup, so it's pushing changes up to iRODS. And then I'm setting it to do the synchronization on a weekly frequency. There are other options. And then here's the target folder. And so that's pretty much it. So now with the synchronization set up, iDrop, when it's running, will look in the queue and see if there are any synchronizations that need to be run. Or I can trigger Sync Now, in which case it will look at the configured synchronizations and go ahead and process them. All right, and so you can see here in the main GUI, I'll close this. Okay, so the synchronization was complete and there were no files transferred. So it's actually doing a diff between the local file system and iRODS and then computing the transfers that are needed. So I want to show you the first interesting thing about synchronizations, which is using this one that we already have configured. So let's open up this info security directory on my local file system. All right. So we're in my user home directory, documents, info security. Okay, so here's the content. So what we want to do is let's just touch a new file. Okay, so now there's a new file in my local folder. So if we go back to our preferences and say Sync Now, we can see that now in this case one file was transferred. All right, so let's look at our home directory. Info security sync, I think it was. And there's hi there.txt, and you can see it's a 0-byte text file. So now let's go back here and let's edit that file. So now the file has changed on the local file system. And we'll go back to settings, synchronization, and sync now. So we should see one file transferred again. Okay, and as part of that transfer process, I refresh my tree. There is a sync backup folder that's been created. And underneath the sync backup, you can see here info security sync, which is a shadow directory that is related to this iRod sync directory. And here you can see the original file, the 0-byte file, has been backed up. Okay, and it has in its file path, we open the info tab, it has a standard addition of a timestamp. So you can see here, this is a synchronization that occurred on January 18th at 12:38:09 p.m. Okay, so in this manner, when you're pushing data and you are going to overwrite it, it will first make up this backup, and then it will push the new data up to your sync directory. And then briefly, if we go back to the Settings tab, to create a new synchronization, you just select the New button. Okay, and I can call this Sync2, and I'll choose a local file system folder. So let's say Documents and iRod's Notes. Okay, and again, this is local to iRod's backup. We'll make it a daily backup, and we'll sync it to, in this case, I'm just going to pick an arbitrary folder. Okay, and we'll call it, this is new. So just assuming that that's the folder we want, and we say update. So that configuration is updated. So here's Sync2. So if I select that and then say Sync now, the same process happens. So that's how you add a sync. And while that sync is running, I did want to note there is a button here on the interface called Sync, and that should in the next day or so be wired in, where when you fire up the interface, you can choose Sync at any time, and it will sync up all the iRod's collections that are pending, and there that sync is completed. And also, we are working on adding bidirectional and iRods to local synchronization too, so that should be coming up in the near term in some upcoming releases. So look for the release of iDrop 2. This is our first phase on this new interface in the next week or so, and there you go.